It's Lucas from the Yes to Life show, and today I want to show you that it's actually possible to make a delicious vegan meal even if you don't have a lot of equipment or a lot of space, because all I have is one pan, I have a knife and a cutting board and a very small kitchen, so that's all I need pretty much. Because right now my brother and I, it's the last day here in Seoul. We're going back to Germany in 4 days. So we thought it's the perfect day just to show you how easy it is with minimal equipment. So the dish that we're making today is like a stir fry with rice noodles. You can always substitute it with any other noodles, but I like rice noodles because I don't feel heavy afterwards. And then for the protein, I'm using some tofu. And when it comes to the veggies, you can swap them with any veggies. I'm using some local mushrooms. And when it comes to stir fry, the first steps for me is always cutting the garlic and the chilies. And what's important here is that you just go with your own taste. For example, these chilies, they are not spicy, but then you also have the Thai chilies, which are really spicy. So you don't have to stick exactly to the amount of chilies that I give in this recipe, because for some people it's too spicy and for some people it's perfect. And then I also chop the chilies, very rough cuts. And then I put a non-stick frying pan to a high heat. I add a little bit of oil. So while the oil is getting hot, I already put aside the garlic and the chilies, and I can start cutting the mushrooms. The oil is already hot, so I'm just going to add the garlic and the chilies. And I'm going to let those fry for about 30 seconds. I'm using 2 types of mushrooms. Now you can see the garlic is getting a little bit brownish, so I'm adding the mushrooms. And just stir it well. So we're going to let them cook for about 2 or 3 minutes until they get more soft. And in the meantime, I can already cut the scallions. And also here again, rough chops, pretty much like 2 or 3 centimeters. And make sure to stir. Before you write it in the comments, I know it's a non-stick frying pan and I'm using a metal spatula, but this is not my apartment. We're renting an Airbnb for our stay here in Korea, and that's all I have to work with pretty much. So yeah, I'm committing a cooking crime right now. And while this is cooking, I can already prepare the sauce that I'm going to add later. So here I have Korean seasoned soybean paste, doenjang. It's super delicious. You can find it at any Asian supermarket. But you can also just pretty much stick with, if you don't have it, you can also just use soy sauce or miso paste and a little bit more chilies. So all I'm doing, I'm adding about 1 big tablespoon into a bowl. And then I'm also adding about, I would say, a 1/4 cup of water. And all you do is to combine it. And I will put that aside for later. This is going to be one of the most final things I put in the pan, because when you fry it, it becomes very sticky and it doesn't look very tasty, let's say it like that. So now you can see the mushrooms are getting a little bit brown and you can see that they are getting more soft. So what I'm doing, I'm putting them to 1/2 of the pan, so I'm clearing the other half. And then this time you have to be very quick. So I'm taking 200 grams of rice noodles, I put them on the other side, and then I'm also adding about 1/2 cup of water. And the cool thing about rice noodles is you can just add them to the pan like this. You don't have to cook them in a separate pot. So it's pretty much like a 1-pan dish. And then I'm also using our remaining soy sauce, which is roughly about 1/4 cup of soy sauce, I would say, maybe like 4 or 5 tablespoons. So I'm just adding this over here as well. And the reason why I put the mushrooms on one side is because if you add the noodles on top of the mushrooms, they are not going to reach all of the water at the bottom of the pan. So they are not going to cook as evenly and as quickly as they could. So now you can see I'm just pressing down on the noodles, because once the lower part, the ones that are already immersed in the water, once they become soft, I can also cook the upper part. You don't want to squeeze the mushrooms too tightly and then you have some soggy mushrooms in the end. So now pretty much all of the noodles are immersed in the water. They've been cooking for about 2 minutes, and I think they need about another 5 minutes. So in the meantime, I'm adding the scallions on top. The reason why I'm putting the scallions right now is because I don't want them to be too soft. Like when you add them right at the beginning, they become too soft. But you also want to cook them a little bit, because otherwise they taste too much like onion, and I want them to be a little bit sweet. So now you just let this simmer for another 3 to 4 minutes, and you can also stir at times. And if you notice that the water evaporates too quickly, you can also always add a little bit more water so that the noodles are, like, they don't have to be completely immersed in the water right now at this point, but there should be some water left at the bottom of the pan, at least for the next 2 or 3 minutes. So now the noodles have been cooking for about like 7-8 minutes. They're pretty much done. And at this point I'm adding the tofu. I have about 400 grams of tofu here, which is about 40 grams of protein. And you can either cut them, or what I like to do is also to just squeeze it in there with your hand. And that's going to give it a little bit, like before I went vegan, and in Asia you always get the fried noodles with egg. And this gives a little bit more like the fried egg noodle type of feeling. So now all you do is just combine it very well. If you want at this point, you can also turn down the heat a little bit to medium heat. And you just want to make sure that it's all combined before we add the chili sauce. So right now I'm going to add the water with the Korean chili paste. And I did add quite a bit of water here, so I'm going to turn up the heat for another 2 minutes. And also, if you want, you can also add some pepper on top. White or black pepper, it's all fine. So you can see it really starts to look like fried noodles. Most of the water is gone by now. And I'm going to take it out in about 30 seconds. I'm going to turn off the heat. And this pretty much makes 2 portions. So I'm going to put one on this plate right here. And you can really see it looks a lot like Asian style fried egg noodle. And then in terms of the look, it always looks nice when you have contrasting colors, especially green and red. So I'm adding a little bit of these sprouts on top. And then also I'm adding the Korean dried chili flakes. They're not as spicy as the Thai dried chili flakes, so you can actually put quite a lot on top. So there you go. I think this took us about, like even with the cutting combined, about 15 minutes. One pan, no fancy equipment, has about 20 grams of protein this serving, maybe even a little bit more because of the noodles. So yeah, this pretty much goes to show how easy it is also when you're traveling to get healthy and delicious vegan food. If you like this format of the shooting, we try to switch it up a little bit from our regular style. Please let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, also leave a like, leave a comment. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscription button below. And as always, see you next Monday and Thursday.